When it comes to spring walleye tactics,
Two words when we think about spring walleyes: search and destroy.
Search and destroy walleyes. First thing that comes to my mind when I'm targeting walleyes in the spring is this right here, okay?
My tactic when I think about spring, especially when I'm on lakes like Leech Lake, is it's all about covering ground. These walleyes are going to be on these expansive sand flats and near some of the underwater points that Leech Lake is known for.
In the waters I fish in Green Bay, we've got miles and miles of area to cover where these fish can be. Driving around 3.5, 4 miles an hour with your big outboard and graphing sections, seeing those fish, knowing where they're at, knowing that you're not wasting your time, you're putting your cast on fish is by far the most important advice I can give to you guys.
I rely heavily upon my electronics to find those fish first. You know, I'll spend countless hours looking for fish with my graphs.
I like to use my Humminbirds with my Minn Kota Altera. The Altera has side imaging on the motor itself, so I could turn the motor and look every direction.
With today's modern electronics side scan, I can really dial those fish in, even in shallow water. And then I rely upon 4 different search and destroy tactics to get the job done. One would be jig and live bait.
When you're out running and gunning for walleyes, it's really hard to beat a jig head, and there's no better jig head than a long shank fireball.
My favorite way to cover ground, oftentimes in the spring, is just a standard jig and minnow, spot tail shiner.
I like to go heavier, and so I'll use a 1/4 ounce jig head sometimes in shallow water because the fast fall triggers bites. Shiner or a rainbow on there, and that hook's long so it gets back there and stings the fish.
What I do is I'll put my vantage down, snap jig aggressively, covering ground till I locate fish. And while I'm doing that, utilizing side scan or side imaging, I'm looking for pods of fish off to the side of the boat because I'm on these expansive flats. Once I find those fish, oftentimes I'll talon down, I'll spot lock.
Once you find them, all right? Once you find them, the first bait that comes to mind and has really taken on the walleye world by storm the last few years, Rapala Rippin' Raps, okay? Number 7s and 6s and sometimes even 5s.
What I love about the Rippin' Raps is that slow fall, kind of mimics that dying bait fish.
We're working these into kind of a rip jigging or a yo-yo effect, making bottom contact every time, okay? This water is generally still cold, so you don't want to be moving the bait too fast. But it's a snap jigging technique, and these fish absolutely go nuts on these rattle baits. So, Rapala, Rippin' Rap, super, super effective bait. Once things start to warm up a little bit, or even when it's still cold, I really like soft plastics. This is about a 4-inch plastic.
I like using artificials more than live bait just because I can fish them much quicker. I can cover more ground. I don't have to worry about that minnow falling off.
Mimic minnows with that paddle tail, fish them just like a crankbait. Pitch it out and reel it really slow, and that fish will just grab it. So mimic minnows, here's a couple of good colors I like to use.
Once that water starts to warm up a little bit, baits like Rapala Jigging Raps, generally you need the water to get a little bit warmer. This is towards the end of that spring bite.
Those fish are even more aggressive, utilizing things like jigging wraps,
Jigs and plastics,
hair jigs.
I always have a rig.
There's lots of things out there you can do.
but really finding those fish first, that's gonna be your biggest key.
The whole key is finding them, covering ground, being aggressive, seeking out active fish, and once you find them, casting to them,
Just like that, finding them first pays big dividends.
and finding ways to put more and more walleyes in the boat come springtime. Search and destroy, and you'll have success.
Good luck.